Yeah, that's us. We're back on Extremely Average Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Clayton Hill. Follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts now, some Instagram, some TikTokies, and the Twitterverse. Twitter's where it's at if you guys want stuff that is time sensitive. That is where I can just go in and straight up throw things in there as they come through. And that's kind of super important when we're talking about injuries and things that happen on the daily. And I only do this once a week, so you're only going to get what I know that one time a week. Now, this time, we're a little bit later in the week. And nobody listens to the actual podcast, so that's fine. Nobody watches the actual podcast, so that's fine. Everybody's usually about the Twitter and the TikToks. The mediums that start with T is where we're at. But where we're at today, we're looking at our lineups, and we're looking ahead. These are the last 2 weeks to get into the playoffs. So if you are in a position where you are fighting, like me, then this is the kind of stuff that we need to pay attention to. We need to be looking at our lineups. We need to be looking at our matchups. We need to be looking at our opponent, looking at their matchups, figuring out if we need to do a floor play, a ceiling play, and then we also need to be getting ahead for week 14, even though it's only week 13. Week 14 is another big bye week, and we need to make sure that our rosters are already set. I want to go into week 14 not even having to put in a waiver claim. That is my goal. So we're kind of working on that. Obviously, that's ideal. We can't all do that, and I can't do that in every league. We have to win this week. Week 14 is a bye week. It is very important, but we have to win this week. If we don't win this week, it doesn't matter, right? So we're going to look at where I'm at in my records. We're going to look at lineup moves and lineup decisions, who I've got locked in, who I'm on the fence about, and how I'm making those decisions. And hopefully that helps you all make those same decisions for your individual teams. And then we'll kind of get into the waiver wire and who I'm looking at. First, who's on bye, and then who I'm looking to pick up. And a little reminder about the playoff schedule, and then we're out of here. All right, so how are we feeling? I'm in a glass case of emotion. There's a tornado in that glass case. I have one pocket of air to breathe, and that is my newbie league that I am in, that I expected to actually be doing a lot better. I'm 7-5 in this newbie league. You know, it's one of those where I didn't think I'd have to think about it. I've got 5 different teams, so I kind of let it fall a little bit. I've also had a couple injuries in there, but we're 7-5. I've got a 99% chance of making the playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean I quit this week. I'm still paying attention to the roster. I'm still making the best moves possible. I'm not giving up, obviously, but I do have a 99% chance in there. Next best chance, I am 6-6. And actually the rest of the 3 leagues, and then a 5-7 in my last league. 6-6 in one league. So again, I talked about this last week. Your record doesn't necessarily determine the percentage that you have to get into the playoffs. It takes in consideration like the rest of the league, what their records are, and how that could unfold after this week. So 3 6-6 teams. One of them I have. So 99% chance in my 7-5. I have a 68% chance in one of my 6-6. I have a 50% chance in one of my 6-6, and a 39% chance in one of my 6-6 leagues. So a 68, a 50, and a 39. All teams 6-6. Very different odds to make the playoffs. My last team. It's a 10-team league. I am 5-7. I have a 22% chance to make the playoffs. I got no money in this one. No money down, so no problems. It's a 10-man. I struggle with those again because it just seems like everybody's roster is stacked. And when you're looking at you're looking at 4 different other leagues where it's a 12-team league. And so the decision process is just different. And I just haven't, I wasn't able to get the cream of the crop on that one. So whatever. I'm okay. I've got 4 other teams to focus on. One of them with a really good chance. But the other ones are the money leagues. The one that I am 50% chance in, that is a money league. And then a 40% chance is a money league. The one where I'm like 68% chance, it's like half the money that I've put on the other ones. So, not looking good. We're looking extremely average here on Extremely Average Fantasy Football Podcast. Tough drop. Last week was Kadarius Toney. Was one to hold on to him where I could. I'm just not in a position. We just have to win the week. And so I ended up dropping him in one of my leagues for Evan Ingram. Not even close to the same ceiling or skill set, but David Njoku is out this week, so I needed to find a replacement. And that's where I went. That was a tough one. I wish him well. It will be fun to watch him as a Chiefs fan if he ever gets on the field again. Which brings us to the big portion here. We're looking at our lineups. Okay. This one I'm looking at one of my 6 and 6. I've got 3 of them that I'm going to focus on here. 3 different lineups. I believe they are all 6 and 6. Yes, they are. So these are my crucial ones that I must win. The first one we will start with is my 39% chance to get in. I am going up against the best guy in the league. This is the biggest tilt I have ever been a part of by far. Now, right now, I just said David Njoku is out. I have him in this league too, and I have not replaced him. So there is a goose egg sitting in my tight end, which will change the projections a little bit, but not much. Right now, it is legit an 80 to 20% projection with me being at the 20% to win. I hardly stand a chance in this one. And so I mention that because it is a huge tilt. I've got a big uphill battle to climb. If I'm going into his, so he's got Dak Prescott versus the Colts. And Colts have been pretty stingy on defense. He's got CeeDee Lamb against the Colts. He's got that stack. Again, Colts have been pretty stingy on defense. But, man, what I'm hoping for is that Dallas finds a way to get ahead early with maybe Dalton Schultz and not CeeDee Lamb, and then they just run the ball the entire time. That's ideal scenario for me there. He also has Tyler Lockett going up against the Rams. Yikes. So, Rams suck. That's gonna be tough. That one's gonna get me. This one's really gonna get me. Austin Eckler versus the Raiders. That is very sad. Kenneth Walker against the Rams. So he does have Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker in the same game. Usually I like to make a decision if I can. Do I think it's going to be more of a ground game, or do I think it's going to be done through the air? If game script goes one way, one of these players may find themselves just completely out of the game script, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for there. The next one, he has the almighty. He has Travis Kelce, and they are going up against Cincinnati, which is a middle-of-the-road kind of defense. But Kelce is Mahomes' number 1 target, so it doesn't matter who Kelce goes up against. It just doesn't matter. Here's a little bit of hope. Rachaad White against New Orleans on Monday night. The running game has not been there for Tampa Bay. We don't even really know what's going on with Leonard Fournette. Maybe we do. Maybe I just don't know what's going on with Leonard Fournette. I feel like I don't know what's going on. I haven't checked on him. I don't have any stock in Leonard Fournette or Rachaad White, so I haven't been paying attention. All I know is that the running game is not strong in Tampa Bay. So there's my glimmer of hope. My glimmer of hope, Rachaad White, New Orleans at home. And then the Seattle and Los Angeles game. If it just goes one way, it can't be close, and I don't think it'll be close. I think that Seattle blows him out of the water. I'm just hoping maybe it's DK Metcalf that gets Seattle off to an early lead, and then they just run. And then he's got the stack with Dallas, and I'm thinking that they're going to blow the Colts out, so hopefully that's a run. So there is hope. He's starting Pittsburgh defense, too. He's made some moves. He picked up Pittsburgh's defense against Atlanta. I like the play. Marcus Mariota is probably going to give up something. Atlanta's going to run the ball. Not a lot of points scored and some opportunity to pick it off. Pittsburgh's been a better defense, too, so I don't mind that play. So that's his team. Where I am coming from, I've got Jalen Hurts versus the Titans, which I absolutely love. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to go off this week. Feeling great about that. Dameon Pierce versus the Browns. I should feel great, but I don't. But I really can't. I mean, I guess I could play somebody else, but people have just been running on the Browns. I still believe in Dameon Pierce's talent. I can see where he could break one off in this game. Do I think that he'll be consistently used? Maybe not. It seems like he's been out of the game script lately, which was something so nice about him. He was catching dump-off passes before and at least getting in the receiving game, and I feel like we've just seen a pullback in usage for everything. They're not giving as many attempts on the ground, and they're not dumping it off as much. So we will see what happens there, but I have faith in the talent. People have been running on the Browns. It's just a tricky situation. We don't know what Deshaun Watson... Yep, right? Voldemort. That's what I call him. Fantasy footballers calls him Voldemort. Deshaun Watson. Pretty sure that's it. He who shall not be named. We don't really know what's going to go on with that. We do know that Amari Cooper suffers on the road, and you can run all day on Houston. I anticipate Nick Chubb to do just that. So I've got Dameon Pierce versus the Browns. I'm moving on. It's been tough 2 weeks. I know I need the upside. Here's where it gets a little tricky. I have Jamal Williams versus the Jags. I also have DeAndre Swift versus the Jags. DeAndre Swift is getting in some practices. We want him to get more opportunities, but he's just not getting the opportunities. I'm sticking with Jamal Williams in this matchup, and I think that Detroit gets down. They're going to get down to the goal line. They're going to use Jamal Williams. There is a chance where DeAndre Swift could show up and ball out. It could happen because it's DeAndre Swift. But I have to have some floor here. I know I need a lot of upside, but I need some floor as well. Hurts is my floor. I wish that I could say Dameon Pierce is my floor. I think he will be okay. I think he's going to have a little solid floor. Jamal Williams brings a good floor with some upside. DeAndre Swift brings low floor and some upside, right? So I'm going with Jamal Williams. It just gets trickier and trickier. The way I have it right now is I have George Pickens, wide receiver for the Steelers against Atlanta. I don't know what's going on with the running back situation. Najee Harris seems to be banged up. Jaylen Warren seems to be okay, but still a little banged up. Snell was doing great. Was it Snell? The other guy was doing great work last week, but the running back room is a bit of a cluster right now. George Pickens has the talent to absolutely scorch Atlanta. It totally can happen. They've been getting... him and Kenny Pickett been getting more consistent, more on the same page. They've been growing together. I could see a world where George Pickens goes off this week, and I need that to happen. Christian Watson versus the Bears. We know that Aaron Rodgers is going to play. He says he's going to play. For how long? I don't know. But I'm hoping while he's in the game, he throws it to Christian Watson. This is a rivalry. Aaron Rodgers wants to go and ball out. He wants to do it. He doesn't want to hand it off to Aaron Jones. I think the run game will be absolutely fantastic for Green Bay in this matchup. But I think Aaron Rodgers is going to want to do some stuff himself. And lastly, if he doesn't play the whole game, last week Jordan Love got in there, and Jordan Love's the one that connected to Christian Watson. And the Bears defense has definitely got gaps in it. I could see Christian Watson breaking one off, taking it to the house. Great talent. The speed is incredible. I want a part of that. My flex right now is Chris Olave versus the Bucs. And I'm going to read the rest of my team because this is where it gets tricky. So far I have Jalen Hurts, Dameon Pierce, Jamal Williams, George Pickens, Christian Watson. My tight end is open. Don't really talk about kickers and defense. Who cares? So for the flex, here are my options. Chris Olave versus the Bucs. Alvin Kamara versus the Bucs. Jerry Jeudy versus Baltimore. Allen Lazard versus the Bears in Chicago. And Zay Jones versus the Lions. I just talked about how I'd rather pick an air game or ground game. So I do have Olave and Kamara, but I am sitting Alvin Kamara this week. I am sitting him. Tampa Bay has a very stingy run defense. Okay? So if New Orleans can't run the ball, and Tampa Bay's been struggling to run the ball, we know Tom Brady's going to throw it like 40 or 50 times. Evans is probably going to get shut down by Lattimore. So that means it's going to be a big Chris Godwin game. That's what I'm thinking. So if Tom Brady is connecting to his receivers and that's where it's going, I know they have struggled to actually score. I just don't see Alvin Kamara getting much yardage. I see it being a struggle. It's difficult. I can't have that. I can't have a difficult. It's much more probable that they go through the air, especially if Tampa Bay is able to do so against New Orleans. I know New Orleans is getting healthier. It's just a really tough one, and it sucks that I'm going to have to wait. I think it's on Monday night. I'm just going to have to wait until then, but I see Olave as being the dude. And I don't even know what he got last time. That'd probably be helpful to know, like what Chris Olave did last time that they played. Can I look that up real quick? Tampa Bay, he got 11 points. Chris Olave got 11 points. That was week 2, though. That was week 2, and there were other things going on. And last time that Kamara played Tampa Bay, he did not. He did not play Tampa Bay. So that might, if the ground game starts to work, it opens up the passing game. This is where we're at, people. God, I just got to talk through everything because this is an important week. Like, I have to win this week against the top dog. If I don't, my playoffs are real slim, and all I want to do is get in the playoffs. Record doesn't matter. Once you're in the playoffs, your record doesn't matter, but you just have to have that record to get into the playoffs. So Olave, Kamara, Jeudy, Lazard, Zay Jones. That's who we're looking at. My plan right now, I'm taking George Pickens versus Atlanta, and I'm taking Christian Watson versus the Bears. Those are upside. I've got look, what we got. George Pickens, Christian Watson, Chris Olave, Dameon Pierce. Those are all rookies. I've got a team of youngsters out here. Yeah, I mean, even DeAndre Swift, is fairly new in the league, one could say. Jerry Jeudy. But I just don't have any faith. So Kamara, I think, is going to have a rough go. Jeudy, we don't even know if he's healthy. It is a good matchup against Baltimore, but we don't know if Jeudy is healthy. God, Denver's just been so terrible on offense. That one's tough to trust. Alan Lazard versus Chicago. If I'm starting Christian Watson, I'm not going to start Alan Lazard. I don't want two receivers in the same game. If it doesn't go well, then that's just botched two of my spots instead of one. Zay Jones versus Detroit. I mean, that's what you're really looking at. Zay Jones versus Detroit or Chris Olave versus the Bucs. And Olave is the dude for the Saints. Zay Jones is like a one-off kind of. I mean, he's had a great week last week. Detroit, I think that Etienne might struggle a little bit running the ball. He's been banged up. I think that it is going to be done through the air for the Jaguars. I think there's going to be plenty to go around because they're going to have to keep up with Detroit. I think Detroit's going to be able to score. I'm almost talking myself into playing Zay Jones over Chris Olave. Am I sitting all the Saints? The Saints are so difficult to read right now. I will probably make a decision on Sunday morning, but right now I am going with Olave out of all of those. Possibly pivot to Zay Jones. So I did mention that Njoku is out. I have thrown out a trade. Alan Lazard for Gerald Everett. Last week, I threw out a trade, Kareem Hunt for David Njoku. That's not working out very well for me. I didn't need Kareem Hunt. I have Kamara, I have Swift, I have Jamal Williams, I have Dameon Pierce. So those are four good choices for running back right there. Usually I start three, and I have a handcuff to DeAndre, which hasn't been a handcuff. I've been using him lately. So I'm fine with that. I wasn't using Kareem Hunt. Ship him off. I had Kyle Pitts. Let's get David Njoku in here. Now David Njoku is hurt. I've got Christian Watson, Lazard. It's been fun. But if I can trade you straight up for Gerald Everett, I want that. It's still pending. He hasn't done it. So if that doesn't go through, I need to drop somebody. And this is going to get difficult. I will probably, because it's going to be either Lazard, Judy, or Zay Jones. And Hayden Hurst is out there on the waiver wire. I'm going to give it a little bit of time today. It's Saturday night. We're getting down to the wire. Hayden Hurst is like one of the last ones that I would actually trust. And since Cincinnati is going up against Kansas City, I know it's just going to be a shootout. So I do feel confident in the tight end for Cincinnati. I will probably drop. I can't drop Zay Jones. I need him for week 14. I cannot drop him. It's between Lazard or Judy. I picked Lazard up off the waiver wire earlier. I'll make that decision later, but it's going to be Lazard or Judy. Probably Judy, because Watson has been hurt. Lazard was serviceable whenever Watson was not in. So just because Watson's been healthy for a few games, who knows what could happen. Judy was scoring double digits before the injury, but that offense is just so terrible. I got them both for free, but I'm probably going to drop Judy in that situation, and then I'll go pick up Hayden Hurst. All right. Woof. You see what I mean? This is what you have to do. You've got to go through everything in every scenario, and I talk through it, and then I flip back and forth. I mean, this is just being average and not knowing anything. I can't predict the future. It'd be nice. All right. This one's a little easier. So this one is it's a 55-45 advantage me. So I got a 55% chance of winning in one of my other leagues. Both kind of have good and bad matchups. I have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I've got that stat going against the Titans. I love that. I think that they are just going to go off. Gabe Davis. This is Saturday. Thursday already happened. That's how weeks go. We missed out on talking about that before it went down, but I did go with Gabe Davis. I sat Devin Singletary. I just thought it was going to be really tough for the Bills to do any groundwork. I thought it was going to have to get done through the air. Gabe Davis had the most Gabe Davis line ever, probably like 2 for 23 and a touchdown. And then Devin Singletary, I think he found the end zone, But, man, was there a carousel of running backs back there. Hello. That's a little alarming for me. So something to pay attention to moving forward is the Bills' backfield. Yikes. So I have Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. They're going to tear it up. Gabe Davis already got me like 8 or 9 points. Kenneth Walker against the Rams. I don't love that, but I totally see a situation where Seattle is so far ahead that it's a pure volume play. I like that as my floor play. Jonathan Taylor against the Cowboys. Not a huge fan, but I got a Kenneth Walker with a floor play. I know that Hurts, A.J. Brown are going to go off. Gabe Davis gave me a good floor. Kenneth Walker, I think, is going to give me a good floor. Jonathan Taylor is a floor play. It sounds so crazy saying that. And Njoku is out, so we got Evan Ingram in there for Jacksonville going against Detroit. Passing game's going to be big. I think he'll be serviceable. That's fine. In my flex, we have options of Christian Watson versus the Bears. Talked about him already. Jeff Wilson versus the 49ers. Revenge game. I love that it's a revenge game. I think having Raheem Mostert back is going to help. However, I don't want to start anyone versus the 49ers. I don't care if it's Miami. I don't care if they're explosive and you've got to cover too much. I do not want to start anyone against the 49ers. I didn't want to start anybody against the Patriots. Those are just good defenses, and man. So I love the narrative, and I will happily watch that narrative unfold with Jeff Wilson on my bench. Isaiah Pacheco versus the Bengals. He might be the only running back there. Melvin Gordon might get some work. He just joined the team. But that's going to be a floor play. So we know Christian Watson's a ceiling play. Jeff Wilson, we're not touching. Isaiah Pacheco is a floor play. And Devin Singletary has already played. That was a floor play as well. I'm going Christian Watson, baby. Maybe, baby. Let's do it. See, you start looking around at stuff. So Christian Watson, what I want to see is he plays at 10 a.m. Got it. And then Isaiah Pacheco plays in the afternoon. So I don't have the luxury of both of them playing in the afternoon, me seeing where the morning games kind of end up. I've really got to make this decision in the morning. And right now I have Christian Watson. I have the ceiling play. I think just because Gabe Davis was a floor, Kenneth Walker, I think it's going to be a floor. Jonathan Taylor is going to be a floor. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, get it done. Evan Ingram is a floor. So I think that I have a good mix of floors, and I just want that one last piece of upside to get me over the hump. Lord willing, baby. Lord willing. One more. Oh, yeah, we are running on some time. This is another one that I'm 6-6. It is a 50-50 split, so we get a little bit more competitive. My opponent has tough individual matchups in this one, so I think I could play a little bit more floor. He has Gibson against the Giants, Walker against the Rams. He does have Justin Jefferson, but it's against the Jets. So, yeah, it's Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson relies on Kirk Cousins. So if the Jets get after Kirk Cousins, it might be a difficult day. I still think he'll do all right. It's Justin Jefferson. Amari Cooper at Houston. So Amari Cooper on the road, new quarterback. And Houston's been pretty decent against receivers. Mark Andrews. Yes, it is Mark Andrews. He will get his, but it is at Denver. Denver is one of the top defenses. And then Waddle at San Francisco. It is Jalen Waddle. It is San Francisco. So he's got talent against tough is what's happening here. For me, I got Jalen Hurts again versus Tennessee. Dameon Pierce versus Cleveland. Oh, my boy ETN. I have JaMycal Hasty sitting on the bench, and I'm wondering if I should start him instead of ETN, which sounds absolutely crazy, but Detroit's been shutting down. They're not shutting down, but they're good against the run. And if they have to pass it, JaMycal Hasty is the one that's going to be involved in that kind of work. So that's interesting. Ja'Marr Chase. He's back. We are getting some Ja'Marr Chase in this one, and I'm starting him, dude. This is my 6-6. It's my 50%. I'm half in, half out. Like, I'm taking shots. We got to risk it for the biscuit. I want Ja'Marr Chase in my lineup. If he's on the field for 5 plays, I don't care. Because one of those is going to be ridiculous. The talent is too good. He said he felt good last week. He was just being cautious. This is the matchup that he wanted. He wants to play. He went off last year. Don't care how limited his snaps are. I don't care. I want it. And then I have Josh Palmer versus the Raiders. We'll see how that goes. Keenan Allen is back, so... yikes, just a little bit. Dalton Schultz versus Indy, which I think is probably the best play for the Cowboys. I think Indy's got a stingy defense. I think maybe if they put a little pressure on Dak, he just dumps it down. And Dak loves Dalton. So we love to see that. The flex is where I'm at. We got Pacheco versus Cincinnati. Again, might be the only one there. Zay Jones, hello. Can you see that I kind of like the same guys? None of my teams are like so crazy different. How terrible would that be? It might be fun, but I feel like I root against myself every single week anyway. That'd be just ridiculous trying to keep up with different teams that were built so differently. Yikes. That's just a me problem. Just venting there. I will probably go. I'll probably go with Zay Jones, honestly, on that one. I need the ceiling, and I'll definitely need the ceiling if Ja'Marr Chase is on a snap count. So, little window into my brain, my average brain, about how I go and I do my lineups and make those tough decisions. Ceiling versus floor. Looking at my individual matchups, looking at my opponent's matchups, also seeing if anybody out, I think that Joe Mixon is still in concussion protocol. So if I'm playing against Joe Mixon, then I might go out and if Samaje Perine is still out there, I might pick him up just to block my opponent. But I don't just go pick him up just because he has Joe Mixon. What are the other options that this person might pivot to? Got to think about it that way. All right. Waiver wire. This is it. Week 14 is a doozy. We need to jump ahead. You need to look at this before kickoff on Sunday. Now, I know that's a tall ask because I'm here Saturday night. You probably won't listen to me on Sunday morning, but you need to be looking and grabbing people if you can, now. Now, don't wait for the waivers. Get them now. Put yourself in a position to win next week. You don't want to be in a tough situation because you weren't that waiver wire priority or someone outbid you, and now you're just stuck. You don't, or you're pivoting to somebody who you really don't want to pivot to. So for me this week, all that. Talk about week 14 to talk about week 13 real quick. Talk about David Njoku being out. Gerald Everett, I'm trying to trade for. Tyler Higbee. Tight ends versus Seattle usually do pretty well. I just don't like anyone for the Rams. Hayden Hurst. Those are the 3 that I'm looking at. If I can't get Gerald Everett, if I can't get Hayden Hurst, man, the matchup's just there. I don't think he received a single target before last week or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, if you're going to throw a dart, might as well throw one at a good matchup. All right, moving on to week 14. Who's on bye? The Falcons, the Packers, the Colts, the Saints, and the Manders. For the Falcons, you're talking about Drake London. You're talking about Patterson, Algier, Mariota, if you dare to play him, if you're in a 16-team league. Whatever. Patterson's probably the most... That's the one you got to watch out for, right? So know that you don't have him next week. The Packers are on bye. So that's all you Aaron Jones, you A.J. Dillon, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, Robert Tonyan, Aaron Rodgers. That's a big one. The Colts are on bye. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, that Campbell guy, the Pierce guy, Mo Alley Cox guy. Jonathan Taylor, not there. The Saints, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill. Maybe you picked up a Jarvis Landry. I don't know. Juwan Johnson. But no Saints, no Manders, no Robinson, no Gibson, no Scary Terry. That's Terry McLaurin. Or Curtis Samuel. No Logan Thomas, no Taylor Heineke. It's a pretty decent chunk right there to have like 5 teams on bye the week that you need to win to get into playoffs. I don't think the NFL talked to me before they made the schedule, apparently. So who am I targeting? Week 14, Zay Jones versus the Titans. Maybe a Ravens wide receiver. Maybe it's Devin Duvernay. Maybe it's Demarcus Robinson. Maybe. But nobody's been consistent. The only consistency is Mark Andrews, but the Steelers are a good matchup. Tough one. We'll have to see what happens this week. Jets wide receivers versus the Bills. Mike White keeps playing well. Let's see what Elijah Moore does this week. Let's see what Corey Davis does this week. Garrett Wilson, probably scooped up. Jameson Williams for the Detroit Lions. Rookie, hasn't played since the college national championship game last November. I believe it was November. He's been on IR all year. There's questions whether he would come back or not. That window is now open. He might play this week. Maybe, maybe not, probably not. There's been talk about him not even being out there this year at all. But he does get the Vikings next week. The dude is talented. I don't know how much you can participate and learn the playbook and build chemistry with the team by not being active. It's tough, but keep an eye on Jameson Williams for Detroit Lions. Kyren Williams, running back for the Los Angeles Rams. Ugh. Gross, man. But plays the Raiders. If you're desperate, Treylon Burks, if he's still out there, he gets the Jags in week 14. Hunter Henry, tight end for the Patriots, plays Arizona. There is a great little trend going where you want to play whatever tight end is playing against Arizona Cardinals. I think they give up the most points. But Hunter Henry, he had a breakout game not too long ago. He probably will be out there on the waiver wire. Plays the Cardinals. It's a good, and if you do DFS, maybe it's a good DFS play. KJ Osborne. Who's that? Never heard of him. I feel like it anyway. It's Minnesota, and yeah, it is like the third dude on the list, but they play Detroit, and I think that Minnesota played Detroit in earlier this year. I could be wrong. I wrote it down. Week 3, he had 13 points in half PPR. I think they've already played. So KJ Osborne may be somebody that you can spot start versus the Lions because it looks like, and that's half PPR. 13 points in half PPR. That'd be a good one. That's a sneaky one. That's a little nugget for you. All right. Those are the ones for the Week 14 buys. Those are the people that are on Week 14 that are projected to do well. Some deep finds. If you can get them this week, again, get them this week. Trades. You're probably done with trades. Deadlines have probably already passed. I talked about it. I'm trying to get Allen Lazard for Gerald Everett for this week. It's still pending. If it doesn't go through, I'll pivot off of that. But that's my last toss. That's my last one out there. It's waiver wire rest of the way. Last week went over the playoff schedule, your best matchups, your worst matchups for quarterback, running back, wide receiver. I went through all three of those positions. If you missed that, make sure that you check out last week's. I'm probably going to try to post all this stuff just all at once if I can on TikTok or whatever. But that was a good one to go through. I'm not going to go through it here because we are overtime hard. So make sure you're looking at the future. Make sure you're looking at week 14. Understand you have to win this week, but man, if you can get ahead, you're just one step ahead and one step closer to getting in those playoffs. And you need to be using the tools. You can look at each week. You can go and set your lineup the next week. You can move players around next week. Yahoo and ESPN allows you both to do that. Check out Fantasy Pros. Check out Fantasy Footballers. Fantasy Pros has that strength of schedule. You can also go to CBS. I use CBS a lot for, say, how running backs versus the Bengals. If I'm looking at Isaiah Pacheco, running back versus the Bengals, how many points has each running back scored? Or, the team running backs altogether, have they scored? So you can look at those matchups there. That can help you make a decision, help you make those tough lineup choices. But this is it, man. We got 2 more. Hang in there, 2 more, and come back next week for a little bit more action here on Extremely Average Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Hill. Follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, and the Twitter for all of the latest and greatest updates. We'll see you next week, guys. Good luck.